Good afternoon, everybody. All right, today we're going to turn this into a Wishbone figure 4 deadfall trap. So stay tuned. I'll show you how we do it. We're going to be able to get all of our components out of this one piece here. Now I'm going to head and cut this piece off here. We're going to make that even. All right. So now, cut there, about there. This piece here, we want just about the same length. And the bait stick part, you usually want almost roughly twice the length, but that's not twice the length, but I'm going to rock with that and see how that works. If not, well, I'll get a longer piece for the bait stick. I'm going to cut us a little 45-degree angle notch right here. Doesn't need to be super sharp. I just want a little bit of an edge on it. Square that up just a hair. That right there ought to do it. Our lever here, I'm going to go about approximately an inch down. We're going to make us a 7 notch. We're going to put us an X in there. All right, I want to carefully carve this out. Now we can take our other piece, bring it back up, kind of bring that up there and get a feel for it. It feels pretty decent. We're locked in there pretty good. I'll call that good on that. All right, now on both ends of this guy, we are going to cut 45s. We need 2 of them. So we want to do that on the same plane of direction on this stick. Square this up just a hair. This will be the end here near our 7 notch. That's going to be having contact with a rock. And this tends to help versus having this. I mean, you can leave it round if you want on this end, but it does work a little bit better, in my personal opinion, if you make this 45-degree cut on it. Alright. That should be enough. If not, we can always adjust. Now we're going to come straight down. We want to try to keep that as close in line as possible. And we'll come down on this back end. We're going to make another 45. And this is going to sit in another 7 notch for our bait stick. So I'm going to make this one just a hair sharper of an edge than I did the other one. Now this stick here is not really straight, so might have to back up and punt and get another stick that's straighter if needs be. That's fine. I don't mind to do that at all. Alright. I'm going to try that. If that's too thick, I'll just whittle that down more. Another thing we'll need to do down here on this Y. We'll clean that up a little bit. Be real careful I don't damage the Y. And I'm going to make sure we got a flat surface here. And that's going to be important for that bait stick. And if I need to, I can take the smaller blade on my pocket knife or that Victorinox to get in here and get more fine detail if needs be. But I need a relatively flat surface for this thing to sit on. So we're going to get in here and try to flatten this out a little bit. This takes just a little bit of patience. Find a better Y branch would help. Get one that's a little bit wider, not so tight if at all possible. But I literally just grabbed the first one I saw. Again, like it's so handy to be able to keep a real sharp edge on your knives, because it makes doing any projects like this a lot easier on you. Alright, I'm going to try that, and if that's not flat enough, we'll just go back with the knife and make it better. Same process here. We'll come back 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and we are going to make another 7 notch. I'm a little extra delicate here because of the simple fact that this is a much thinner stick here, and I got to be a little more careful not to damage it while I'm doing this. So using far less pressure on the knife. Right. I do believe that'll be deep enough. Now we're going to have another one here, and we might want to mock this up to make our decision on where we're going to put this one. So we're going to go underneath that Y, lock him in back here. So now we can roughly see where we need to make that last 7 notch. My finger on it. real quick before I can change my mind. Alright. I'm going to make double sure. I'm going to make real sure that these are good in line. And the good thing is when you're practicing this stuff, you're out here in the woods, you do make a boo-boo. There's a lot of branches and stuff around me. It's like, hey, if I have to back up and punt, get a new stick, no problem. So I'm out here just pretty much relaxing and practicing. So there's no real pressure. So take your time, develop the techniques here while you're not in an emergency situation. Then when you have to do it for reals, you don't have to stress so much. All right, we're going to try that. Now let's get our pieces. I think that'll work. All right, guys, let's go set this bad boy up and see her in action. Oh, almost forgot. We're going to need to prep the other end. On this one, a lot of people merely put a point, and I'm going to put a 0.2, but I'm going to add extra options on here. That gives me a little bit more options depending on how I do want to bait this thing. Because, I might want to be able just to skewer a hunk of meat or a mushroom or some other bait that I can try to use to lure in a critter to activate this thing. Alright, so now we got that. And we're going to go back to our Victorinox here. Alright, let's put this back in the sheath. We're pretty well done with the fixed blade. Now then, I am going to make some small series of holes in this, and that is because if I have anything like, say, peanut butter, energy bar, Cliff Bar, or even if I want to use the remains of another animal I happen to have found, I can take small pieces of it and mush it into these holes, and that will really force any animal who wants to try to take that to have to really work at the bait stick. Now, this is not absolutely necessary. It's just, it's just a little extra thing I like to do myself. I think that makes it a little more versatile because I don't want to feed them. I want to trap them and have a potential larger meal versus the very tiny bit of bait I use to acquire it. So, nothing fancy. Don't have to even be all the way through. I've just got some holes that I can mash some kind of food product, or maybe I found some piece of an animal out here somewhere that I really couldn't eat, but maybe I could still use some of it for bait, whatever the case may be. All right, let's get down to our flat rock here and set this bad boy up. All right, guys, let's try to get our trap set here. You can actually let this one be under your trap a little bit due to the design of fulcrums and levers in this system, it will actually kick the components out of the way. Alright. Oop, I didn't think to get me a stick to trigger that with. I just used my hand. No, just kidding. That might work. Alright. Now, I'll say this about, like I said, any of these straps, if at all possible, build some kind of little, you leave an opening on both sides to let the guide the animal into the bait stick. Try, if at all possible, to build something, even if it's just sticks, longer sticks, shove them in the ground. Try to protect this part of your triggering system. That way nothing prematurely sets it off out of curiosity. Now, that should be a fairly good hair trigger. So we'll give her a quick little tap here, guys, and we'll see what she does. Now, as you can see, our components flew free. And if that had been a rat, squirrel, chipmunk, that absolutely would have crushed it. Set her up again. Got them backwards here. Scooch this over just a little bit. There we go. There we go. Let's get a close-up of this stuff, guys. Okay. As you can see how much that 7 notch is engaging. Come back here. If I can even get to where you can see it without setting it off. Maybe not able to. There, for what you see here, there's even far less there on that part of that 7 notch. It is just barely in there, and it will not take much to set that off. So back on out, guys, and that's kind of what we're looking at there. There you go, guys. That is I think one of the better configurations for that figure 4 deadfall trap that I've seen. There's a multiple ways to make your notches, and in essence, is still always a figure 4 trap, but then it's like you can kind of set up your notches in a different way. Now with this one, I really like the way it kicks the components out away from the rock, so that way you don't have those components stopping the rock from actually dropping down and taking out your target animal. And I gotta get full credit to Dave Canterbury. Several years back, that's where I actually saw this configuration for the figure 4. And after I'd seen that configuration, that was the method I adopted, just because I think it's really slick and it works fantastic. It really increases the efficiency of the figure 4 and eliminates that super particular touchy part where you have to get in. With your normal figure 4s, you got to get so close. Say my hand's the rock and this finger here is the stick that it rests on. Now normally you just got to try to get real close to that tip, because once the animal triggered it, most of the time the figure 4 wanted to fall, because the rock was falling down and it was pushing and kind of wanting to squish your traps. But with this one, I mean, I can come in a couple inches, no problem. And as that rock pushes down, when that trigger stick engages, due to the notches. It literally forces the Y branch at the bottom. Now the one on top will force it. There's two notches will rub, that notch will rub on that 7 notch, flip your Y branch part clean back out away, and the top stick that has your rock weight on it will really usually pop up in the air and flip. And sometimes I get the trigger stick underneath of it, but the trigger stick's so small and thin, no biggie. All right, guys, with that, I try not to make this video super long. I really appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Kind of help my channel grow if you can. Like I said, I come quite a long ways, but you know, it seems like we got kicked back pretty good. So it is what it is. But if nothing else, all you did watch, I hope you enjoyed it and you actually learned something. Highly recommend you get out there and try this stuff. Practice it and get used to it, get that muscle memory. And then when you're actually in a bad situation, you're more apt to be able to perform the task, say out there in the wild with stress on you, far easier, you know, once you've got these skills on lockdown. And that, guys, hope you all have a very good evening, and I'll see you again in another one.